Dutch semiconductor companies are urging the government to invest €100 million to €150 million annually in the industry. ASML CFO, Paul Verhagen, told BNR News Radio, "The Netherlands, as a small country with a strong chip industry, holds a unique position. It would be a shame not to let it develop further." Verhagen's company, along with other industry giants like ASML and NXP, made this appeal, referencing the European Chips Act. Verhagen highlighted that the EU had previously agreed to allocate more funds towards digital and green transitions to strengthen Europe's technological leadership compared to countries like the United States. He emphasized that every country, including the Netherlands, should contribute to this shift and the Chip Regulation Initiative. The National Growth Fund's fourth round was originally intended for this, but it was later canceled, Verhagen said. However, the chip industry does not want to give up and thus issues this call. "We still want to continue this initiative. The Netherlands, as a small country with a strong chip industry, holds a unique position." ASML previously warned that it wants to expand, but the Netherlands might be too small for its ambitions. The Hague responded to this call, and earlier this year, ASML announced a €2.5 billion joint investment with the Eindhoven region to improve the business environment for the microchip industry. Despite the formation of a new Dutch government led by Prime Minister Dick Schoof, the chip industry is already seeking subsidies. After ASML secured billions of euros in investment for the Eindhoven region, other semiconductor companies began requesting similar treatment. Now, a broader coalition of 30 companies, including ASML, NXP, Nexperia, Philips, and several startups, has formed under the name ChipNL. Two companies jointly wrote to the new cabinet, explaining the subsidies they need. Specifically, the ChipNL consortium seeks a government commitment to invest €100 million to €150 million annually over the next 6 years. According to the Dutch national news agency NOS, in return, the consortium will allocate €100 million to €200 million annually to further promote cooperation among semiconductor companies. An XP project manager Nuria Barcelo Pero stated that investment is essential to ensure fair competition. She noted that without financial support from the Dutch government, expansion overseas becomes very easy. ASML CFO Paul Verhagen highlighted the international competition behind the investment need. "In the countries where we operate, we receive excellent treatment. We are attracted to invest there. If this happens less or not at all in the Netherlands, then, of course, part of the growth is more likely to shift overseas." Verhagen believes the letter is not a threat but a positive warning. Several media outlets have rightly questioned the cabinet's interpretation of the letter. Regardless, targeting investments appears to be a strategic choice. It is now clear that the new cabinet wants to curb immigration, including the influx of expatriates, focusing particularly on ensuring equal opportunities for each chip company. Furthermore, since these companies are often complementary rather than competitors, this request could help propel development in various directions. If support is not obtained, these chip companies will seek other avenues for growth. For companies like ASML, Philips, or NXP, completely leaving the Netherlands is unrealistic, but expanding to regions like the US or Taiwan is feasible. The letter reflects a new reality. As Verhagen mentioned, France, Germany, and especially the US, are trying to create an attractive business environment to lure some Dutch companies away. Sometimes this includes promises under the US Chips Act or equivalent European legislation, but it is by no means necessary. Support can be broadly interpreted to include tax incentives, housing, growth opportunities, and talent attraction. However, ChipNL's goal is more ambitious, asking the Dutch government to walk the talk. Does it really want to be and continue to be the center of the European chip industry? Is the strategic and economic significance of this sector important enough to warrant continued financial support? If former Prime Minister Mark Rutte hoped to lessen the burden on his successors, he was sorely mistaken. If the Netherlands needs another example of substantial government support, the South Korean chip industry receives €430 billion from the government. Indeed, this amount is spread over 20 years. But even so, ChipNL's request is insignificant in comparison. The South Korean government aims to ensure it can supply at least 10% of global chip production. These Dutch chip companies have fundamentally different requirements from their South Korean counterparts, prioritizing personnel and surrounding infrastructure over wafer fab capacity. The Dutch government can be relieved that its expenses are smaller than the chip ambitions elsewhere. Whether the new Schoof government recognizes the good deal it faces remains to be seen. In April, ASML released its latest quarterly financial report. The data showed that in the first quarter of 2024, ASML achieved net sales of 5.3 billion euros, a gross margin of 51%, and a net profit of 1.2 billion euros. New orders in the first quarter totaled 3.6 billion euros, of which 656 million euros were EUV lithography machine orders. ASML expects net sales of 5.7 billion euros to 6.2 billion euros in the second quarter of 2024, with a gross margin between 50% and 51%. The most criticized aspect of this financial report was the year-on-year decline in bookings, with EUV orders only accounting for 646 million euros. Last quarter's bookings exceeded expectations. Management stated that to maintain next year's revenue target of 30 billion euros to 40 billion euros, bookings for each of the remaining 3 quarters this year need to be over 4 billion euros. This quarter, sales from mainland China remained high, with single-quarter lithography sales of 1.885 billion euros, up 355% year-on-year, making it ASML's largest customer region for 3 consecutive quarters. So, what caused ASML's significant order decline in the first quarter of 2024? The reason is clear. ASML is facing severe challenges, primarily due to decreased orders from mainland China and reduced pull-in demand from TSMC and South Korean customers. New orders totaled only 3.6 billion euros, with EUV orders at 656 million euros, a stark contrast to the same period last year. Whether this situation will improve in 2025 remains uncertain. In retrospect, ASML enjoyed strong demand from the Chinese market in 2023, with annual sales reaching 27.6 billion euros, a gross margin of 51.3%, and a net profit of 7.8 billion euros. However, entering 2024, the situation took a sharp turn. The company's revenue expectations for this year were initially on par with 2023, but first quarter actual performance fell far short of the previous guidance of 5 billion euros to 5.5 billion euros. More strikingly, ASML shipped 449 lithography machines in 2023, but in the first quarter of this year, shipments plummeted to only 70 units, down 54 units quarter-on-quarter, almost halved. Such a dramatic decline in performance has undoubtedly put enormous pressure on ASML. Former ASML president and CEO Peter Wennink stated, "First quarter net sales of 5.3 billion euros were at the midpoint of the forecast range. The gross margin of 51% exceeded the expected target. This was mainly due to different product combinations and one-off non-recurring expenses." ASML CFO Roger Dawson further explained that compared to the dry lithography business, this quarter sales of immersion lithography and EUV business were higher. Additionally, some one-off non-recurring expenses also led to an increase in the gross margin. Net profit for this quarter was 1.2 billion euros. New orders amounted to 3.6 billion euros, with 656 million euros from EUV orders. From the presentation materials, it is clear that mainland China was ASML's largest customer for net system sales this quarter, contributing 49% of the company's share. In the fourth quarter of last year, this proportion was only 39%. In terms of products, as shown in the chart, the company's best-selling product in the past quarter was the KrF lithography machine, followed by AR5, then EUV, I-line, and ARF dry. It is evident from the chart that sales in the first quarter were significantly lower than in the previous quarter.